I'm afraid we're missing one candidate who should be seated at the end, but no doubt he will find his way to St Mary's, which is probably not one of his regular haunts, but perhaps he'll turn up in due course. Welcome to the Youth and Community Centre in St Mary. This is a building with which I have a certain affinity. And just before we kick off the hustings this evening, I've got a couple of things I have to say. Our friends at the Health and Safety Department want you to know that there are 3 exits in case of any emergency. There's probably the one you came in through, there's one there and you turn right, and there's also one on the left there. We've hired a very expensive sound system, so if you are called to ask a question, please wait for one of the roving microphones and then give your name and state your question as clearly and as succinctly as possible. Those of you who don't actually live in St Mary, I would ask you to perhaps save your question for the hustings in your own parish. The format, as I'm being told, apparently, is as follows. Each candidate has drawn a number, and they are seated in order from 1 through to 18 or 17. Candidates will speak for 3 minutes. There will be a bell at 2.5 minutes to let them know that they're near the end, and a final bell at the end of the 3 minutes. Questions will be asked in groups of 3. In other words, we will take 3 questions each time. Replies will only last 1.5 minutes, and the candidates can answer either 1, 2, or 3 of the questions as they think fit. And in order that the same candidate doesn't answer first each time, the first set of questions will be answered by number 1, which is Paul Routier, and the second lot of questions will be answered by number 10 on my left. And we aim to finish, hopefully, at about 9:30. Okay, so we'll now kick off, and I'll ask Paul Routier to get the ball rolling. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. This hall and the parish hall behind us has been the venue for many a great battle. It is where for many years I've played league table tennis, even representing St Mary for 2 seasons. I feel very at home here. In fact, this is one of my regular haunts. As one of the last senators to have been elected to serve a 6-year term, I have seen several failed attempts to alter the election process and the constitution of the states. What is concerning for me is that the Assembly spent far too much time discussing itself and not enough time focusing on the needs of our community. And the very real disgrace was the outrageous refusal of some states members to reject the outcome of the last referendum. Now, I'm wearing a yes sticker to keep constables because I know the value of having their contribution in the states. But if the referendum reject that, and it's a no, I will accept that decision. For the last 6 years as Assistant Chief Minister, I have undertaken and completed several significant complex projects. I was pleased that the Chief Minister asked me to oversee the social policy and that we have established a social policy unit in the Chief Minister's department. It shows our commitment to addressing the needs of our community. I led the debate of the charities law, which was enthusiastically welcomed by the voluntary and community sector, and I hope to progress the next phase of the law. I currently chair the new Adults Policy Group, focusing on the important matters of safeguarding. This area of work can be very difficult at times, and it is our duty to ensure that services are the best that they can be. If elected, I want to continue the work to ensure that an inclusive equality strategy for people with disabilities is finalised. I want to progress the new mental health capacity law and to conclude the complex access to justice review, which I chair, and to go on to implement the recommendations. I hope that I have shown that I have the ability to achieve things. I've been busy during my period of time, and if you feel that I deserve one of your votes, I'll be very pleased to receive one. Thank you very much indeed.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. The easy thing to do in politics is often to put decisions off. And in my 15 years in politics, I have been asked to serve in some of the most challenging, some would say the poison chalices of states' departments, and the last 6 years serving as Treasury Minister during what the history books will describe as being, I think, the Great Recession. On your behalf, I have had to make some extremely difficult decisions, and as you will all know, some of them extremely controversial. And it is perhaps for that reason this election is perhaps more challenging for me than some of my fellow candidates. What I do want to say to you this evening is that over the last 15 years, I have always put my own popularity aside and always tried to make decisions designed and researched that are in the islanders' and the island's best long-term interest. There's been an understandable debate about our public finances. Unfortunately, politics is dominated often by the negativity, and that is a shame because actually Jersey is emerging from this financial crisis in actually a relatively strong position. This week we saw the news that the economy in 2013 stopped contracting. That's good news. I was always perhaps an optimist, and I always believed that the Jersey economy would turn the corner, and it is now indeed doing so. And with the right policies for the next Council of Ministers, I believe that we can return to economy which is going to be a growing one. And if I may say to former Deputy Grime and you, Mr. Chairman, we can also say tonight that the strategic reserve which you two gentlemen ensured that we took over is tonight worth £780 million, and even after that, that we've invested some £222 million over the last year in infrastructure. We've invested millions in housing. We've invested millions in getting people back to work, and our unemployment level is coming down. Ladies and gentlemen, this election is really about public finances, education and healthcare, and I hope that you have the opportunity of reading my manifesto, which is on your seats. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope that I've convinced you for one of your 8 votes. Thank you very much.
Good evening, St Mary. It's a privilege to be here tonight. In actual fact, it's a double privilege to be here tonight because you're the smallest parish, but you're the only parish that's contesting all positions, constable, deputy and senator. And I think that is 10 out of 10 to St Mary. I'm Sean Power. I'm the senior deputy now for St Prelade. I've been in the States since the end of 2005. And I'm a firm believer that those of us that serve the public throughout the various roles in the States, when one aspires to be a senator, that one should have served perhaps as a deputy first, and I've certainly done that. I've worked at housing, I've worked in the planning department with your constable, some very difficult work there. It's one of the great poison chalices of the system, where you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, but it is very difficult work. But in the last 3 years, I've stewarded a committee, a panel composed of such different people as Deputy Routier, Deputy Baudin, Jeremy Masson, Rod Bryans, and we've managed to, I think, present an image, dare I say, of consistency over the last 3 years. I'm a great believer in the parish system. I believe my submission to the Electoral Commission was for 30 senators and 12 constables. That was rejected by the Commission. I then backed the Option B campaign, and it was, as you know, rejected by the states. Only seven deputies out of 29 supported the reform of the states through the result of the referendum, and that forever disappoints me. I'm a bit of a traditionalist. I'm as passionate about this island as any Jersey man or any Jersey woman. I've been here 32 years, and I've lived in the same house for 30 years. At Lamoy. I'm as passionate as any man, any Jersey man and Jersey woman about this island. I believe in the role of the bailiff. I believe in maintaining the role of the bailiff. My work has not just been planning. My work has not just been housing. I've also been involved in shipping. Some of you may remember me before I was a States member for the Emerald campaign. And last year, Hewlin Renoff went into receivership, and I was involved in bringing 2 of the 4 shareholders into that last year, which is now resuscitated as Channel Island Line. So I have various interests, various experience, and I believe I bring a balanced approach to States work. I'm also Vice President of the Animal Shelter. I drive trucks to Romania for mustard seed. I Community Relations Trust. I do many, many different things. And I believe I've got leadership skills and competence to represent you for the next few years. So I humbly ask you to consider me for one of your 8 votes. Thank you very much.
Oh, sorry, I was waiting for an introduction. Good evening. In the last few days, I've been hearing about real problems with the health service. I've heard of doctors having to work ridiculously long hours and severe problems caused by misdiagnosis or inadequate anaesthesia. Could the two be related? We have a shortage of nurses and rely on up to 22,000 overtime shifts in a year. Would you want to be treated by an exhausted doctor or nurse? We're told we're to provide care in the community, but many patients who are discharged early need to be readmitted because home care is not fit for purpose. A particular concern is the Children and Adolescent Mental Health Service. The recent scrutiny report into the CAMS service was damning. Increasing demand has led to waiting lists being increased from 6 to 14 weeks. Autistic children cannot access the excellent provisions available until they've been diagnosed, and that can take up to 9 months. This is a long time in the life and development of a child. There is no place of safety for severely disturbed children who must be placed in an adult unit or on a paediatric ward. Cases are not followed up adequately. These problems may be partly due to mismanagement, but perhaps shortage of funds. If elected, I will be asking hard questions to establish the facts and ensure that the recommendations of the scrutiny report are enacted. A problem raised by a Family Nursing Association is that free dressings are no longer provided. Some patients exhaust their life savings paying for these. Patients often buy cheaper dressings which are not fit for purpose or reused dressings, leading to infections which require hospital treatment. This is a false economy. We must sometimes spend now to avoid spending more later. If early intervention in the treatment of a disturbed child is going to prevent lifelong problems, this is a real investment. If doctors have their working hours reduced, there will be not expensive accidents, let alone more tragic consequences. As some of these savings are long-term, we may need to raise taxes, as we're told we must by the outgoing ministers. So where will they come from? The lower and middle earners have been squeezed enough. Reformed Jersey candidates strongly oppose a rise in GST and don't want a property tax that will remove control from the parishes and transfer the burden of taxation from landlords to tenants. We want taxes to be progressive, with a rate of 25% for very high earners. We would also consider removing the cap on social security payments so those on high incomes pay the same proportion as the middle and low earners. More equal societies are healthier societies. Reform Jersey is seeking to make Jersey a more equal and a healthier society.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Alan Maclean. I was elected Senator in 2008, and since then I've served as Minister for Economic Development. I'm extremely proud to have had the opportunity to serve my island and our community on important local issues as well as on the international stage. I've worked hard together with colleagues to build Jersey's reputation abroad, developing trade links and securing inward investment to support our economy and jobs. To meet the challenges of the last few years, I've overseen the transformation of the Economic Development Department. We integrated the harbour and airport, improving services, removing waste and stripping out more than £1 million of cost. We've invested in supporting start-ups and small businesses, the lifeblood of any community and the economy. We've supported traditional industries, as well as encouraging innovation, new technologies and creative industries. We've developed Locate Jersey to drive inward investment, which is so critical to diversifying the economy. We introduced the Foundations Law to boost financial services. We introduced a Financial Services Ombudsman for greater protection for consumers. Now, figures released today, or this week I should say, of the Jersey economy in 2013 show that for the first time in 6 years we have some stability. Indeed, traditional sectors like agriculture and hospitality grew by 12% and 2% respectively. We've acted. The economy is improving, unemployment is falling, and confidence is rising. But there are still threats ahead, and many islanders are struggling to make ends meet. I want to boost our economy further. A strong economy benefits all islanders and helps to ensure better services and lower taxes. I want to remove unnecessary red tape, regulation and legislation that strangles small businesses. It limits investment, growth and job creation. I want to lower the cost of living, energy in particular and food, by strengthening the competition law and consumer groups. I want to see skills and training programs developed, importantly aligned to industry needs to ensure more local jobs for local people. That's how we're going to deal with our immigration issues. I want the income support system reviewed to ensure fairness and value. I want to see the cost of government controlled rather than tax rises that hurt everybody. And we can do that by capping recruitment, capping the number of public sector employees with a heavy turnover of staff. We can do it. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm in politics because I care passionately about our island. If you want to be represented by somebody with strong and independent views, by somebody with a proven track record and vision for the future, by someone with leadership qualities and determination to drive positive change, please consider giving me one of your votes on October the 15th. I won't let you down. Thank you.
Good evening, St Mary. You're going to hear a lot from States members about what they would like to do. The question you should be asking yourselves, if they've been in power for 6 or 3 years, and why haven't they done it already? We're here at what may be the last ever senatorial hustings. I think that's a great shame. I want you all to know that I'm here because I support the island-wide mandate, and I think that it is really an appalling state of affairs that the only serious referendum question that has been put to you is the one coming up. Do you wish to retain constables? We really should have the question, do you wish to retain the island-wide mandate or not? And I believe that most islanders do wish to retain the island-wide mandate. Now, I've seen an awful lot of mistakes over the last years. I wrote 2 letters to the Evening Post begging States members to think again about what they were going to do about the Millennium Town Park. The public, 19,000 people, said, please, give us a park with underground car parking. What have we got? A £10 million park, no underground car parking. And let's do the mathematics. That car park in Gas Place used to earn £250,000 revenue a year. Now it earns nothing. You are now paying probably in the order of, and this is to keep the mathematics easy, £70,000 a year to keep the maintenance, keep the plants going. That means that the Millennium Town Park is costing this island minus £400,000 a year, add inflation year on year into perpetuity. This is not the way. This is not the way to conduct government projects. We should have had underground parking. The huge hole was there. It just needed to be dealt with. And the mistakes go on, as if we haven't learnt about the errors of building on revenue-earning property. We're now going to build a police station on another car park. That's okay, it's only 100 car parking spaces, but if that car park was extended, it could have been 500 car parking spaces. That is income of £500,000 a year. Instead, we have yet another liability and a capital cost and ongoing maintenance. Mistakes like this go on and on. And I want to assure you that I am here, hopefully, to provide creative solutions. That is what I think this island desperately needs. We cannot carry on in the old ways. And most of all, we can't keep spending your money. I want to ease back on taxes, trim government. Because if you keep giving the states money, they'll keep on spending your money. And there comes a time when you have to call a halt and decide what are the essential services and what are the nice-to-haves. We need to take an entirely new approach to how we deal with all matters of government. I'm here to tell you that I intend to do that, to offer creative solutions. You'll see some in my manifesto. I will deal with you honestly and straightforward, and if you want someone who will stir it up in the States, please consider me for a vote.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Andrew Green. Just remember the colour on election day, please. I'm a Jersey family man who's passionate about our island. I proudly served St Helier as a deputy for 2 years. I believe that I have delivered both as a minister and as a backbencher. Time doesn't allow me to list my achievements, but if I had to pick one, it would be the Housing Transformation Programme, transforming homes, transforming lives. My plan was described by independent experts as honest and courageous. I spent most of today, or this afternoon, walking around your parish, knocking on doors and talking to some of the residents. Traffic, speed limits, population, the hospital and pavements were the subjects that people talked to me about today. But this evening I have decided in the time remaining I would like to concentrate on mental health. This has been a matter of great interest at some of the hustings that have gone before. And I believe as a community, the government, and I believe that as a community and as a government, we need to work much harder to address the issue of stigma. We must get to a position where mental health is recognised as being just as important as physical health. We live in an increasingly complex and stressful world. Rates of depression and anxiety are increasing. And at any time now, 1 in 4 people develop some form of mental illness. It can affect anyone of any age, and it will be affecting somebody that you know in our community. My research tells me that by 2020, mental health problems will be the second most common cause of ill health after heart disease. This is both unacceptable, unaffordable, and we must work to try and prevent or manage it. We need to invest in much earlier interventions and promote mental health well-being, and we need to do it now. We need to do it now in our schools, we need to do it in our workplace, and we need to do it now in our community. Prevention is so much better than cure, and by the way, is so much cheaper. Genuine partnerships between health, education, employers and voluntary community sectors must be developed. Jointly, we must design, deliver and have clear, simple training and messages to encourage people to recognise that mental health is just as important as our physical health. Time doesn't allow me to explain my thoughts completely, but it was Einstein that said, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. Now, I don't want what we've got. I want to be your next health minister. I want a mental health service that's fit for purpose, a mental health service that's proactive, not reactive, a mental health service that we can all be proud of, and I want this for you. If you want a new person, Senator, that has experience, courage, vision, thinks independently, but works collectively, with a track record of getting things done, please give me one of your votes. Go Green 14.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm John Young. I'm the Deputy for St Bullard's District Number 1, and I was elected following careers in the private and public sectors, which included being former Chief Officer of Planning. I'm currently Chairman of the Environment Scrutiny Panel and conducted many hearings on such policies as energy review, incinerator ash, but I've also sought improvements to rural bus services and mains drainage, much more localised issues. And as a backbencher, I've lodged many propositions and gained states' agreement to changes to the island plan, changes to planning law, reduced stamp duty for first-time buyers, survivors' pensions and many other measures. Time restricts me tonight to just saying a few brief words on policy. Jersey's GVA has fallen by 16% in the recession, we're told now, financed by 33% and continues to fall, last year 3%. And I think we need to heed these signs and encourage new enterprise in all sectors and remove unnecessary cost and bureaucracy and develop our creative and IT skills and learn the skills needed for renewable energy technology, where there is a major opportunity which can create jobs. And of course, we must get behind tourism 100% and grow event-led tourism. Just look at Broncards Festival and Jersey Live as examples, and your own Lemire Vineyards here. These are real examples of the sort of enterprises we want to encourage. But of course, as a government, we're now spending more money than we receive. And we've got to review spending priorities and reform the public sector, reducing corporate overheads and layers of management. But we must do so by protecting frontline services and find ways of releasing more funding for education and health. Top priority. And one of the things I would like to look at is setting up state health insurance funds. And we've got to ensure our health service meets the needs of our ageing population and provide access to primary health care for all, not just those who can afford it. And we should work with GPs and voluntary bodies in developing primary care services. And we need to develop a health service which is right for Jersey. And we need strong political direction if we're not to be led down the same road and make the same mistakes as the NHS. Above all, there is a need to improve our government. We need it to be more in touch with people. We need our government to build consensus rather than encourage adversarial UK-style politics. Then we can start to rebuild lost trust and restore confidence in our government. We can do this together. I have the capability and experience in many careers to deliver the required changes. And many people have asked me, they want to see these changes. In this election, you have a choice, voting for change or more of the same from the existing ministers. I ask you to vote for change. I humbly ask for your vote as Senator. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening to me.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Ian Gorst, and it's been an honour for me to serve as Chief Minister for the last 3 years. During those 3 years, I've sought to build consensus, to deliver for islanders, to face up to difficult problems and make decisions. This week, I've been speaking about a different subject at each of the Hustings meetings. I've spoken about health, I've spoken about education, I've spoken about unemployment, I've spoken about digital Jersey. Tonight, I'd like to talk about electoral reform. Please don't all leave at once. This, of course, may not be a surprise to you because it sometimes seems that States members like nothing more than to talk about themselves. But where shall I start? You'll be pleased to note that I haven't got time to talk about all the attempts to reform the states. For at least the last 15 years, the states have been considering reform, with and without independent individuals such as Routier. I believe that all these efforts culminated in what I think can only be described as a disregard for democracy when the States Assembly rejected the results of the referendum. And during these elections, we've heard many excuses for why that was so. And I know, of course, that we all have an opinion on what the solution is, which office should remain and which should be changed. But equally, I think we all accept that we need to reform, that the state is not functioning effectively for the benefit of the community, that change must happen. We now have an opportunity again to start the change process through the question being asked at the election: should constables remain in the states, yes or no? I am a strong believer that where Jersey sets itself apart from elsewhere in the world is through our parochial and our honorary system. And the constable is at the very heart of both of those traditions. The constable connects the community with our legislature, a connection which I believe is to everyone's benefit. It also connects us with our history and our heritage. That is why I am supporting the Yes campaign, and it is also why I recommend that you do the same. But what after the referendum? Well, in the past, reform issues have simply been handled by a committee of the states. And I believe that if we are to make progress in the future, that must change. The executive must take up the challenge and work with all members to build consensus. Once we have the result of the referendum, whatever that result, we must work together to build a state fit for the future that serves all islanders. We must stop talking and act. I would be honoured, ladies and gentlemen, to receive one of your votes on election day. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I stand for change. We obviously need political reform, that's very apparent. But most of all, I stand for change in our introspective outlook. I believe that Jersey should work more closely with our neighbours, the Bailhache of Guernsey, in many aspects of daily life. I don't know how many of you managed to go to attend the Bailhache Festival last weekend, but the idea JICAS, the Jersey International Centre for Advanced Study, was launched from a marquee at that event. The opening of our own homegrown university is very exciting, but I've since now found out that Guernsey is trying to do the same thing. Here is an example of a project that two islands really should be working together on, their expertise and calling the organisation Channel Islands University. The advantages of our university are many. Some Jersey-born students who don't want to leave the island can study here, hence saving taxpayers' money. Also, by laying on degrees in subjects that we do best, like law, accountancy, using Durrell to teach biological studies, the island would bring in badly needed youth. Simultaneously create a large pool of academics, and finally a reserve in expertise in specialist subjects that hitherto came from outside consultants. However, in this period of austerity, we must be careful that it wouldn't become a burdensome around the state. I believe also that we should promote the Channel Islands, and not just Jersey, as vibrant, robust centre of excellence. Forward-thinking jurisdictions where depositors and investors can put their money safely. I believe that the islands must now work together to cut cost and duplication of law, the law drafting, for instance, and that would save enormous amounts. The two assemblies could work together on conferences from time to time. I work as an accountant in the finance industry and know fully well that the books have to be balanced at the end of the day. Like others here tonight, I'm appalled by the budget deficit and need to control spending. Also, I think we need a population minister. Population is the elephant in the room. Not only to look at the complex ways of trying to keep population checked, but actively seek ways of reducing immigration. For instance, if we need to import maths and science teachers, we should probably offer them termination bonus inducements to leave at the end of the contract. In that way, we would ensure a healthy turnover of people without adding to the overall population. The same applies to extra doctors and nurses. I believe in the conservation of our local heritage. I think we need to prioritise town developments and cut down on country building in order to conserve our country space. I believe that we need to keep also St Helier very vibrant. In order to do this, we need to upgrade town properties and build flats above empty premises. Above all, we need an effective environment minister who has the power to do things and the teeth to do more than he's done before. Sorry. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Malcolm Ferey. This election is your chance to make a difference and to vote for someone who sees the problems that exist in Jersey from someone who sees them every day at the coalface. In my current role as Chief Executive of the Jersey Citizens Advice Bureau, on a day-to-day basis, I see firsthand the problems that exist in Jersey. For that reason, I would like to make a difference and to tackle these problems from the inside, and that's why I'm standing in these elections. My politics are therefore centred on keeping in touch with the issues that affect the ordinary islander and professionalism in delivering the appropriate solutions. Put simply, I want what's best for Jersey and its people. We have seen from recent reports that the early indications show
that we are indeed emerging, blinking into the daylight from one of the deepest, darkest recessions this island has ever experienced. Economic cycles are about confidence, and we must identify at this early stage that the cycle is coming to an end, recognise the outlook is more favourable, and move forward together. Now is the time to invest in all our futures. Now is the time to look forward with new hope. I've worked hard and made positive changes in every position that I have held in my career so far, from the finance industry to the civil service. And I can promise that as a States member, my resolve would be just as strong. When you get a chance, I'd ask you to visit my website, malcolmferry.com, and you can start my campaign video and see and hear all the issues that I feel are important. So if you want to see a new face and have some new thinking in the States Assembly, but you also want someone who understands the island's traditional values, then please consider me for one of your votes on polling day. I was talking to a young couple yesterday morning, and I asked them, what is the main election issue in your mind at the moment? And they both answered that they wanted to see some new blood in the States. And they want someone who understands their problems. I hope that you feel the same way. Thank you.
Good evening to the ladies and gentlemen of St Mary. My name is Geoff Habin. I'm a businessman, I'm a management accountant, currently chairman of Jersey Friends Research, and I have a proven track record in very many different businesses. What have I seen over the last few years? Well, I've seen seemingly endless debate. I've seen a great stream of expensive consultants, especially in the last couple of years, quite a lot of bickering, to be honest. I've seen the disconnect that has happened between the public and the Assembly, caused in large part by being ignored in the referendum. I don't think anybody realises how deep this has gone. And I've seen mushrooming red tape and bureaucracy. And I have seen that things are just so much more difficult to achieve. And certainly life is getting very much more expensive. So what have I not seen? I've not seen enough people within the Assembly saying, I want to put Jersey first. And I don't mean a little bit of it, I mean all of it. I haven't seen hospital waiting times come down. I haven't seen Highlands progress its higher education and vocational training enough and quickly enough. I haven't seen particularly yet the states actually do any of this cost cutting it keeps talking about. And I haven't seen small businesses supported. They're the backbone of the island. If we had a lighter touch with them, it would improve unemployment dramatically, lessen social cost, and have a knock-on effect of lessening zero-hour contracts. And the other thing I've not seen from so many is a true sense of community within the states. And this is very sad. It is a time for more action and less debate. We must get on. It's an important election. It will set the tone, particularly with regard to health and education, for many, many years to come. Naturally, reform of the states itself will, no doubt, be an ongoing conversation as well. If you want to change the makeup of the states for people that are prepared to get on with it, the only way this can be done in a democracy is use your vote. And I would urge you all, please, friends, family, members of the public you meet, church, pub, I don't care where, urge them to vote. It is the only way we can get a true view of how people feel. I would very much like to be part of this process. I have a will and wish to do it. And I would like one of your votes. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming to listen to me and to the other candidates tonight. My name is Konrad Kruszynski. In 2013, the survey highlighted a serious income gap, with 45% of islanders stating that they had difficulty paying their bills and only 25% reporting confidence in the government. So what it means, ladies and gentlemen, It means that the sole focus on economic growth has left the island without consideration for population control and with creaking infrastructure. It means that youth unemployment is affecting work ethic and fostering idleness amongst young people. Is this the way forward? I think you already have an answer. I'm standing here tonight heading for the office of Senator because I'm not in any political schemes or structures, and I'm driven by my determination and knowledge and the will to challenge our current problems and issues, as well as fighting for equal rights for all of us. I am the voice of ordinary people, and I will work for ordinary people, those who work hard every day, and those who pay the bills and taxes, those who are faced with problems resulting from the ill-conceived system of socio-economic policy, which is unfit for purpose, and those responsible remain impotent, persistently telling us that everything is towards the better. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your call. This is the time to take opportunity for your voice to be heard and to be treated with respect and dignity you deserve. I believe that change must happen now, and it's greatly needed. This is the right time to show that together as a community we can make those changes happen, which will lead to a much improved quality of the life for all of us. Let us be strong together and let us vote for our rights. There are key changes that I believe should be addressed. Strong and proactive support of small businesses and implement policies that will help them grow. Reform the current investment and tax relief policies. Promote talented people and maximize their potential to benefit us all. Promote further and higher education, along with reform of the current educational system by implementing mechanisms to stimulate the achievement of higher qualification. Support young talented people from low-income families by system of grant and rewards. Reform current policies and regulation of the employment law. Strong support is needed for the back-to-work schemes already in place. Complete reform of the current property rental system. Reduce doctor fees. And promote our beautiful island by further investment in the tourist sector. Stimulate people to think green. Create alternative energy solutions. Reduce airport charges and cost of travel. Support the development of local artists and youth. A stronger connection with European countries and develop further existing integration policies. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to see those changes happen, please consider me for one of your votes. Thank you.
Good evening. Excuse me. This is an important election. State spending keeps rising and our income is falling. At the moment, we have assets to cover this, but we have fewer people paying tax and no new source of income for the states to balance this. Last year, we reduced the marginal rate by 1%. This has reduced states' income by £8 million. Removal of the deemed distribution has lost us another 6 million or so. Not a lot in the scheme of things, but 8 million here, 6 million there, soon becomes a problem. And the number of people paying tax at 20% has halved from 12,200 to 6,800 since 2008. They now pay 47% of tax, while those paying at marginal rates pay 52% of the total. 6 years ago, the marginal rate payers paid 41%, and the 20% payers paid 59% of our total tax income. The tax burden is growing unfairly on Middle Jersey. The GVA figures are encouraging, but if the increased business is with trading companies, companies don't pay tax. When the financial services industry originally rose in Jersey, care was taken by Senator Cyril Marquand to ensure that Jersey did not adopt economic and fiscal policies to which critics would point and say, you're a tax haven. We need to re-examine our now complicated tax system to put the island back on the principled path charted by Cyril Marquand. My scrutiny panel has examined the budget. One conclusion is that we have a deficit, in total over £100 million, and around £50 million of that is on current account. Some of this is structural. And the only way to deal with a structural deficit is to increase income, which means taxes, and reduce spending, which could mean services, but in my experience, efficiencies cut costs, not services. But all that has been left until after this election. Our report contains a 10-point summary plan of the steps the Treasury should take as it plans our counter-cyclical strategy. The new normal in Jersey may well be lower than before the crisis because of structural change to the industry. We must keep a check on expenditure lest the island gets too expensive for the finance industry. This is the most important election for 60 years. Your vote is your voice. It matters. Please use it. And please remember Sarah Ferguson when you vote.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Dr. Zoe Cameron, though some of you will know me as Zoe Bertram in the past. I spent my childhood in St Mary's Schoolhouse, very proud to be the headmaster's daughter. And one of the most exciting moments of my life, believe it or not, was on my 3rd birthday when I was actually given a uniform and allowed to look like all the other children. I was brought up believing that once you'd achieved financial security, it was time to put your energy back into serving your community. The local parish shop, doctor, and the local parish shop and doctor is in danger of being eroded and replaced by faceless services. Healthy communities are based on trusting relationships built over time, and I believe that these are the values that have what kept our tax low and made Jersey special over the years. We've heard a great deal about the state of democracy and whether the constables and parishes should continue in their current form. As a GP in St Wands, when someone became unemployed, sick or fell on hard times, I saw them turn to the parish. Doctors' bills, amongst others, would be paid. And it's my belief that the parishes are still closer to their parishioners than centralised public services can ever be. The constable and the secretary can offer a person-centred approach. They can coordinate the honorary system, volunteers, and even help build a community centre, as you have done, to meet parishioners' needs. In the past, alcoholics and women subject to domestic violence were given food vouchers rather than cash in hand, so that benefit wasn't spent on drink or beaten out of them. The unemployed didn't sit at home. They were found a useful role in the parish until they got another job. Some constables are better at serving their parishioners than others, and in a democracy, any parishioner who thinks they can do better can challenge them at election time. Politicians are accountable, and this is hugely preferable to the 5-figure sum we seem to have to pay senior civil servants that are underperforming. As for the role of senator, decisions made by ministers affect every islander, so I believe potential candidates should seek an island-wide mandate. In Jersey, anyone can put themselves towards before the electorate and ask to represent them in this way. And you see on this platform a range of mostly independent personalities with a mix of background that would be hard to find in a party system. If you would like a Jersey-born family doctor with the ambition to strengthen and build on parish life, hoping that it will remain at the heart of our community, then please vote for Dr. Zoe Cameron on the 15th of October.
Good evening, St Mary. My name is Lyndon Farnham. I was first elected to the States as a deputy in 1999. I stepped down in 2005 to focus on my family and business commitments, returning in 2011 when I was elected senator. I am the serving Assistant Minister at Home Affairs, where I hold special responsibility for the Jersey Fire and Rescue Service and the Prison Service. And I know we're all proud of our excellent emergency services, but I am especially proud to have served during a time when we have seen improvements in many areas, not least with the police, where we have seen positive improvements leading to more public confidence. And I'm pleased to be able to report this evening that crime levels in Jersey continue to fall. I have successfully brought a number of propositions to the States since being re-elected, including a move to introduce political accountability for our justice system, and I now serve on the Justice Advisory Panel and the Bailiffs Consultative Panel. I am the immediate past president of the Jersey Hospitality Association, and I continue to champion tourism as an important pillar of our economy. I fully support the long overdue rejuvenation of Fort Regent, and I am leading a campaign for a new 50-metre competition pool. And my appeal is, if we are going to have a new pool, please, let's do it properly. I also led the campaign to keep the island-wide mandate in the office of Senator, which I'm pleased to say is alive and well, and long may it continue. If you elect me, I shall be seeking the position of Economic Development Minister, not least because I think that I think that economic prosperity should be put firmly back at the top of the agenda, because in real terms, despite the fact that the economy has now levelled off, it's still at its lowest level since 1998. And from agriculture and the rural economy to sports and event-led tourism, to fintech and the digital economy, to economic diversification and small business development, it's time to act. It's time to introduce the policies that will return strength and drive and energy to the economy. Now, there is still a widespread belief in the island that the states are not performing effectively. The main concerns are that some politicians are motivated more by self or party interest than the interests of the island, and that some simply do not have the knowledge, skills or experience to be able to do the job. And there is a lot to do to safeguard our future prosperity, for which we need people with real experience. We need people who are sensible, able and proficient, so we must choose our elected representatives carefully. And my politics are not about left or right, or senseless arguing or time wasting, and my politics are about getting things done. And I do not favour party politics. I favour team politics. I favour working together for Jersey. Thank you.
Good evening. I want to speak this evening in Jersey's smallest parish about the place of our small island in the world. We all know that small is beautiful, and in many ways the smallness of a community or a country is an advantage because people can identify more easily with it. The Scottish referendum has changed the UK by underlining two conflicting concepts, namely interdependence and a sense of identity. I understand the Scottish desire for a sense of identity. I am intensely proud to be a Jerseyman, and I want to encourage as many as possible, whatever their national origins, to feel the same way if they have made their permanent home in Jersey. It has been my job for the last 3 years as Minister of External Relations to promote a better understanding of Jersey overseas. And I think that we are beginning to get our messages across. Our separate identity is understood in the diplomatic world because they too all have different national identities. It is not a question of independence. Our government policy, and I completely support it, is not to seek sovereignty unless it became in Jersey's interests to do so. But we should understand that we are, for all practical purposes, already an independent state. We receive no financial support from anyone, and we have nearly all the institutions and attributes of an independent country, except the ability to conclude treaties and to represent ourselves in international organizations. That is sometimes a disadvantage, but we are recognized already in Europe and more widely as a responsible micro-state. We are receiving more and more visits from ambassadors and high commissioners who are interested in us. There was recently a visit from the Chinese ambassador, the representative in London of nearly 1.2 billion people. With all his huge responsibilities in London, he chose to spend 4 days with us in Jersey, and numerous business and cultural opportunities are going to result. We now have government offices in Brussels, Caen and London, and they give us access to the corridors of power in the EU and the UK. We are working on developing the French office to build relations in Paris. Please do not allow detractors, including some in the States, to sneer about Jersey's place in the world. For our size, we have an extraordinary footprint, and that is good for all of us. Small is beautiful. Vive Sainte-Marie, vive Jersey. Merci.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Chris Magee, and I'm 25 years old. I have a law degree from the universities of Edinburgh and Oslo. I don't live in St Mary, but I have been around many of the doors when I was working for Jersey Electricity. You might see me knocking again at a door near you in the future. I left that job not for a career in politics, but to try and make a positive difference. I am not, nor have I ever been, a politician. I don't want to replicate what you've been getting until now. I'm not a politician, but I know that spending money you don't have is not sound policy. I'm not an economics professor, but I know that you cannot tax yourself into prosperity. I'm not a market analyst, but I know that the gap between the haves and the have-nots is widening, with over 40% struggling just to make ends meet. I'm not a nurse, but I know that Jersey's disability strategy is virtually non-existent. I'm not an employer, but I know that many of them are abusing zero-hours contracts. I'm not a pharmacist, but I know that the number of prescriptions for antidepressants and opioids are skyrocketing. I'm not a doctor, but I know that there are many people in Jersey suffering right now from conditions where their quality of life would be vastly improved with access to medicinal cannabis. I'm not a homosexual, but I believe that gay marriage should be recognised. So who am I? I'm a man that doesn't want to raise GST now or ever. I'm a man that does want to reduce the size of government. I'm a man that doesn't want to squeeze middle Jersey dry. I'm a man that will give 10% of his salary, if elected, to local charitable causes, not chosen by me, but you, the people of Jersey. All of my decisions, if elected, will be accompanied by a short YouTube video explaining to you, the public, why I did it. I'll be providing you the maximum level of accountability and transparency, both features which I feel, and indeed many people around the island feel, are lacking in the current makeup of the states. The youth are very underrepresented, and because they feel, like me, that disconnected current states members are selling our futures down the river in the form of debt. In fact, a recent poll of 70% of you said that the Council of Ministers are, quote, terrible. In that case, let's get rid of some of them. This is the 8th round of hustings now, and I've been amazed at the amount of different words some of the other candidates can use without saying anything at all. Some of them here, in fact, have been trying to get rid of the office of senator, yet here they are, looking for votes to be a senator. That's outrageous. Whilst we're on the topic of political positions, let us now turn to the matter of the upcoming referendum. Why does it matter, you might think? They ignored us last time. That too was outrageous. Confidence in government is extremely low. Can you see why? The next referendum is almost upon us, and the question reads, should the constables remain as members of the states as an automatic right? It does nothing to address if they should be able to vote or speak on certain matters, and if so, which. My personal view is the parish system will not collapse if constables can no longer vote. The role of deputy will still exist, and there will still be direct connection between parishes and the States Chamber. Having said that, no matter what the outcome of the referendum, I will support it. Thank you for being here.
Right, well, we're halfway through. There are a lot of stalwarts here who were also in the parish hall last night for the deputies' elections. You've obviously got an awful lot of staying power. Now it's your turn to ask questions of the candidates. And what we're looking for is 3 separate questions, which will be put to all of the candidates. And we will be starting with number 1, which is Paul Routier. So who would like to ask the first question? Preferably St Mary's residents. Yes, Mr. Moulin. Switch it on.
Okay. I notice most of the candidates this evening are wearing the yes badge to keeping the constables in the States Assembly. Are there any no's, and if so, why?
That's one. Second question, please. Yes, Mr. Barnes. Hang on, there's a microphone coming.
Thank you.
We haven't waited for nothing.
I'll just speak louder. One. Yeah, there we are.
You're on.
Of the potential senators here tonight, who of you support and value tourism industry, and how would you show that support if elected?
That's two. Let's have a third one, please. Come on, somebody. Don't be shy. We won't bite you. Yes, Mrs. Johnson.
What I want to know is about immigration. Are we going to cap it? And what worries me, it might go out of control one day, because we're getting more and more people coming into the island. And I would like to ask the Assembly here what they think about immigration and how to control it.
Right, so we have our three questions. Paul, if you'd like to start. 1.5 minutes.
I'll do my best. Thank you very much. It's always difficult coming first, but certainly with regard to the constables being in the States, as you see, I'm wearing a yes sticker. The reason I'm wearing a yes sticker because I believe that during the last 6 years there's certainly been a great value in having the constables in the States, because there have been times when we've had very close votes that could quite easily have gone, to my mind, the wrong way, and it's the sensible views of the constables and the stable views and the conservative views of the constables, which I believe have helped us to reach the right decision for yourselves. With regard to the support for tourism, we need to continue doing more things about event-led tourism, and particularly I have a strong connection with the sporting community. There are so many opportunities for sporting organisations to have tournaments and to bring people into the island. We've seen the great success of rugby. We need to do that with other sports as well. Heritage is a great draw as well. We certainly, in my business in town, we've got a lot of continental people from Germany and Sweden who come in, and they think our heritage is absolutely marvellous, and we should be marketing that a lot better. With regard to immigration, we do need to have new people coming into our island, but we need to do that in a very measured way. I think having a cap, a straight cap, I don't think is really feasible to have that. But what we need. Okay, I'll move on. Thank you.
My answer to the constables is yes, I support them. So, Mr. Barnes, how can we support tourism? Well, as Alan Maclean has already said, we've turned the corner. I think that a lot of tourism establishments this year have had a great season, I'm hearing from hoteliers. Some of them, I see you shaking your head. I think one of the reasons why that is that we've got EasyJet. And I think it was absolutely the right thing. I'm very proud that I got EasyJet here, and I cut the cake for the first EasyJet plane to come here a number of years ago. The route network is at absolutely the heart of delivering people into Jersey and advertising to the UK, but we need to do more. You need a body like Jersey Finance to effectively market your organisation, which is supported properly with a proper amount of budget, which I support. You need to put more money in the Tourism Investment Fund. There's going to be some candidates who are going to say, where's the money that was promised? TDF needs to get its top up, but the request needs to be made. We need to support events, brancage, the marathon this weekend, all the rest of it. Island Games next year. Let's go and shout about Jersey and Liberation 70 next year and say everything that is great about Jersey-British relationships and get British people to here and put Jersey on the map. Population, I would ask you to read my bit on population. Jersey is the place it is because of a fusing of inward talent and existing islanders, and we need to control migration, but we need to actually welcome people here with the skills and the high-level skills that are needed. Thank you very much.
I deal with tourism first, Ian. We know how huge Stonehenge is in the UK. We know how huge the Giant Causeway is in Northern Ireland. We have Lacotte and we have the Coin Hoard. And it's markets like that, culture and sport, that will open up Jersey to the future. It's not just event-led tourism. It's the whole panoplia of what we need to do to this island to put Jersey on the international map, which has not been done effectively. So there's a whole area there that hasn't been approached, that should be approached. Can I deal with population and migration? We police the companies that go to the population and migration office and give them a hard time. Small business is the backbone of Jersey's economy, and we give it a hard time. What we need to do with population and migration is police the grey economy and the cash-in-hand economy that disappear into the economy without us being aware of it. They don't pay taxes, they turn up in A&E, they turn up in the court system, and then their children turn up at school. That's the issue. Finally, I support the constable system, I support the parish system, I'm passionate about the parish system. You peel away layers of Jersey's tradition, history, culture at your peril. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to be one of the minority here that says no, the constable shouldn't be in the States automatically. If you want your constable in the States, you should vote for them in that role as a deputy. I think the current system is very unfair. St Helier has one constable for a population of over 30,000. You have one constable for something like 800 voters. And I'm sure, although it works to your advantage, you can see that it's not really fair. I don't think it would weaken the parish system. I think it would make it stronger. I don't think people are very happy when their constable takes on an important role in the States, as Mike Jackson did in St Brelard's. He was a minister for TTS. He didn't get re-elected. So I think if you want to be in the States, you need to stand for the States and you need to play a full role there. In terms of tourism, I think any financial support should have a cost-benefit analysis, but I do think we should encourage good hotels to come in and ease the way for planning permission, like the Premier Inn, that will do its own marketing and be a place that people would probably want to stay. I would also support Fort Regent as a wet weather facility that we very much need. In terms of immigration, I think we need to control it, and we have a mechanism for controlling it with the work and housing law, but it needs to be properly policed. I don't have a siege mentality. I'm an immigrant. I brought my skills here. I came with my husband who did, but I do think that licences need to be properly policed.
Ian, I, as the Minister for Economic Development, support tourism. I've ring-fenced the budget. In fact, tourism gets more from economic development than any other industry, including finance. £6.5 million a year we have. We also have the Tourism Development Fund. That's £500,000 a year over a 3-year period, 2013, 14 and 15. In the future, we have to go back for more money. We put 630,000 or so into events. That's absolutely critical. We have fantastic events, ladies and gentlemen, the Air Display, Boat Show, Jersey Live, Broncage, but we need more. We need to push the boundaries. We need to look at things like Formula E racing, really exciting opportunities. We've started some discussions. Red Bull racing, big investment. We should push those boundaries and really look at some innovative ideas for tourism. After all, 6,500 jobs, small and medium-sized businesses. It's the heart of our economy, and it's really important that we support it. £228 million, that's what goes in, and 11.5 million of tourist GST spend in Ireland. We're doing a lot, we need to do more. Also, 31 regional airports, and we get a lot of benefits across industries as a result of tourism. I'm a yes as far as the constables are concerned. Connection to the parish, absolutely critical. It's part of our history and tradition. As far as immigration, it's critical we control it properly. We can have good immigration, bringing high-value jobs in here. It creates job opportunities for local people, but it's getting the balance right and making sure the policing is properly carried out. We're doing it a lot better now than we were, but there's more work to be done. Thank you.
I like to preserve the secrecy of the ballot box, but as you asked the question, yes, I'm quite in favour of constables in the States. It's the deputies I want to get rid of and replace them with senators. Then we can have a proper States of Jersey with a large number of island-wide mandated people and the constables to represent the parishes. Immigration.
we're going to have to live with it. We're only 100,000 people this island. We can't just devolve experts out of the schools all the time because it's just not possible. And besides, our talented kids go away and they do very well all around the world. But I'd like to see tighter controls. Now, tourism. Again, we keep hearing spend, spend, spend. More money, event-led tourism. Look, events are not going to win the day as far as tourism goes. Ask any hotelier, they'll tell you when you're fully booked. Answer, week of the Battle of Flowers, week of the air display. Forget Broncage, forget all the rest of it. It's not, you can keep pouring money into that, it's just not working. I say invest in tourism infrastructure. We've lost the lovely Le Couperon Hotel in Rozelle. Beautiful bay, now it's a private residence. If we were serious about tourism locations and a place where you can literally walk out the back door onto the beach, the state should have bought that property and done a public-private partnership with a hotel organisation to say, please, keep this as a hotel as long as we can. We need to invest in infrastructure. That's going to be the name of the game going forward. Forget the flim-flam of marketing and events.
Try and deal with them in order. Constables, yes, but actually it's your call this time. That's what the referendum's about. And if you say yes, that's great. If you say no, then I'll support that. It's your call. Tourism, well, we lack a tourism strategy. We have little bits of good ideas around, but no clear strategy. And tourism is far more important, I know you know this, Ian, far more important than realised. Tourism provides our communication links. Without those communication links, and by that I mean flights and ferries and everything, tourism supports that. Without that, there will be less. They will become more expensive, and the finance industry will not be sending their people over to do the trips and spend the money that they do. Communication links are so important. So what we need is a proper funded strategy. I actually, not one that actually believed we did the right thing when we ditched the so-called bucket and spade brigade, because when I went on holiday with my children, I spend far more money than I spend when I go on holiday with my wife, but don't you tell her. How are we going to cap immigration? We'll never settle immigration until we sort out the skills shortage in this island. It takes 3 years to train 13 block layers. Unless we do something different, unless we sort that out, we'll never, ever get a control of it. And are we really going to cap it and tell the best surgeon who wants to come here and work for us that he can't come here? No, we need to sort out the skills problem first. Thank you.
Immigration. We have to manage our level of immigration because it affects our infrastructure needs and impacts bad on land use. I don't believe we can set a cap, because if we do, we run into big problems with the EU and we're going to disadvantage Jersey people going to work in Europe and in England. So I think, frankly, we have to manage it. Those policies, we've got an interim policy of 325. The long term is that we do need to train more, we need to develop education to meet those local needs. Until we do so, we will have to accept skills coming into this island to keep our businesses going, particularly in an economic situation. Do I support tourism? Yes. I've certainly took a lead on the Harbour Gallery at St Aubin when it came at risk, and working with EDC and others to keep it going. Event tourism, Broncars, fantastic. And as chairman of the Jersey Arts Centre, I certainly was responsible for a number of festivals myself, and I know how people come to Jersey and how important that is. It's a great opportunity. And on the question of constables, I don't wear a yes or no badge. I haven't complained on it. My personal view is that I see constables being separately elected and then the decision to go to election to the states. But they're very important. They're a rock of our community, and we have to expand their role. But I certainly don't get involved in this division of the A and B. I didn't before, and I don't now. And so, but that's my personal views.
I think I spoke about the constables in my opening remarks. I would disagree with one of the other speakers. I believe that if you remove the constables from the parish, you will fundamentally undermine the parish system, and it will be the end of it. We only need to look at our sister island to see the state of their parochial system, and I believe it's one of the things that makes Jersey special. Tourism, we've started the long haul back to, I think, a more positive tourist product. You'll know of the work that John Henwood has done and now the work that Kevin Keane is doing, creating Visit Jersey, and then we'll have a more detailed strategy. I actually believe it is about events, because if we see when we're full, it is when we've got 2 of our premier events on. So it's about building up other events and attracting other people to come to those events. But it's also about culture. It's also about some of our Celtic sites that we're seeing. It's an important part of Jersey, and it's something that we promote actually on the international stage. Philip spoke tonight about ambassadorial visits. They want to come and see our culture. They want to come and see our tourism offerings, and it's what we talk about as well when we're travelling around the world, not just finance. Immigration, it's about balance, it's about partnership with business, it's about getting the skills up. We all know that people are concerned about it, but it's actually really about balance. We can never cap in the way that some people think, but we must work with businesses to make sure, A, they're taking local people where they can, but B, they're still allowed to bring in the skills that they need. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm on a bit of a losing wicket here. I'm the one who actually did say I thought the constables were out. And I think for very real reasons. I saw a Mike Jackson stand as Transport Minister, and he couldn't work both sides. He had too much work in the States dealing with specialised stuff. I think you need a specialised States now with more specialised things. And I think the parish constables work very well in their own assembly and come into scrutiny. It would work very well, that system, but I'm obviously in the smaller bark. Tourism, lots. EasyJet, our heritage. I went to a marriage at Gorey Castle, fantastic. Events left, definitely. I think tourist websites help people create their websites attractively so people can go in, hotels, etc. Very much sports-led. I think we could do a lot more in sports, especially a big swimming pool, if it is proved to be cost-effective. And as for heritage, as for immigration, I think it needs a very complicated subject. It needs to be broken down very much into its little parts. I've talked about nurses and teachers. I think we need subsidised accommodation for some of those and to help them through, and termination bonuses yet to help them leave, that we get a regeneration process. I think we need to upgrade our skills so our children can leave the island, also come back. And I think we still need to bring in very many high-value people. Thank you.
Okay, I'll take these in reverse order. Mrs Johnson, immigration. Whilst we have 1,500 people plus out of work, although that number seems to have gone over the hump, that's still a huge number of people that we got out of work, and yet this summer more people came into the island. So that is unsustainable in the long term. If the income support bill, the benefits bill continues to rise, the only way that we can do that is to get those workers skilled for the jobs that are filled in the summer. And if someone has a job for 6 months, at least it's meaningful employment, and with all the benefits that that gives somebody, even if it's just for 6 months. So I think that's how we need to tackle it, is through the employment situation. Mr Barnes, tourism, yes, we need event-led tourism, of course, but we need to reach out to people in smarter, more innovative ways. You know, if we've got a budget for television adverts, that is great, but we need to support that and back that up with reaching people through social media, through all sorts of other ways of catching people. Yeah, I've got a yes badge on, and I firmly believe that if the Conitabs came out of the States, it would be the disintegration of the honorary system, and I believe that, you know, that is probably what the No campaigners would like to see. But ultimately it is, of course, up to you. So it's your decision in the referendum, so please vote wisely.
Constables, I'm wearing a yes badge as well. I'm very much a traditionalist and think they should be in the States, and that the parish system would really suffer very, very badly and be something we wouldn't like to live with thereafter if they were not there. Ian, tourism. I don't think there is actually a cohesive strategy in place anyway, I don't believe. I know that Mr Keane and Visit Jersey are trying to have a review. It'd be very interesting to see what comes from that. But my opinion is that you have small groups of hoteliers and other people doing their own thing. It needs to be brought together. Mrs Johnson, immigration, it's never going to stop. There's always going to be a skills gap because we can't train people for jobs that we don't know exist in 5 years' time when you need them. So that's always going to be there. But we need to get as many people, locals as we can train for what we do know we need. Another thing that's never been raised on this subject actually tonight so far is we don't actually know who leaves. So that needs to be looked at as well at some point in the future. Thank you.
At the present, Jersey tourists suffer from stagnation, and only due to some lovely weather this year, we have seen an increase in the number of visitors. But this isn't the work of incompetent politicians who right now are twitching nervously with fear that they will lose their position because they have no cohesive strategies for tourism. It is the work of Mother Nature, but we cannot rely on Mother Nature all the time. We must involve local people to start provide some facilities for tourists, to make better use of private facilities and reduce demand and cost of hotel accommodation, which will bring even more tourists to Jersey. Development, we need to invest in developing and advertising Jersey in order to become recognized as a tourist destination. We must organize more events, entertainment not only for tourists but also for local people, such as competitions for beach balls, swimming competitions, international marathon, and those would encourage tourists to more frequent visits. Over immigration, not immigration, in this island is the job, again, of the incompetent government. No one else. If you want to cut it, we need to provide sustainable level of specialists in the sector, upgrading the skills of employees as well as imposition of higher standards. In other words, I will try to create an opportunity to take education here in Jersey so that our island will not lose future intelligent people for the benefit of UK. The perfect solution is to create conditions to undertake studies on strategic sectors and completing them in our island. This will eliminate the significant problem of high cost of our students are paying to UK universities. Thank you.
Yes, I think the connotables, I think the previous referendum, actually it wasn't a referendum. The questions were so muddled, nobody really understood what was going on. Clothier recommended consensus government, and we weren't going to get it after the last referendum. The No campaign can't define the role of the connétable if they're thrown out, and there is also the question of payment. Will it go on the rates? So if there's a proper referendum, which I think this one is, and whichever way the public vote, I will go with it. Tourism. I actually went back and consulted my business school notes on tourism marketing when I did my MBA. Yes, I agree with Philip that the hospitality industry and travel links are absolutely intertwined and very important. But I think we've got different market segments and we've got to be a bit careful as to how we mess around with them. The banks use five-star hotels. Joe Public will use probably the 3 and 4s. The 3 and 4s are having a jolly good season, partly, I think, because of the weather and partly because of safety. You know, we need to look also at the background, the environment. Green Street Cemetery is so scruffy at the moment, it needs doing up. Immigration, we don't even know if the law's working. Come on. The population report from June won't be out till December because the figures aren't available.
I've obviously made my views clear about the constable earlier, but if the islanders decided to vote no, then I would accept that. With regard to tourism, I think a small amount of people in an executive position in government can't know everything about everything. And when that happens, there's a tendency to get in outside experts. I think we need to get better at actually asking local frontline people here. I mean, obviously there is Lyndon, but you know, we can reach out to the experts who actually work on Jersey and encourage their ideas and support them better. I think also when it comes to encouraging tourism, you need a far more joined up approach across all departments. So the planning, in planning they ought to take it into account. And you know, people do prefer hotels like the Charrier and Le Couperon to Premier Inn. That's why they come to Jersey, and that's what it makes it special. As regards immigration, I think we do, again, there's we could do better with our young people, perhaps at the age of 14, 15, looking at the sort of skills that we need and encouraging them to give them better guidance into what's going to be more likely to help them find jobs locally to cut down on the immigration needed. And I think housing control is has been quite a good way in the past as well to use. Thank you.
Thank you. I think my good friend Deputy Young was trying to say he didn't support constables, although he couldn't say no. I'm a big yes for constables. I think they make a valuable contribution. Long may they continue, but I will not vote for the removal of the senators without first the permission of the electorate, which I don't think will be forthcoming, judging by the support. Mrs Johnson, immigration, yes, I share your concerns, which is why immigration must be carefully managed and tightly controlled, but we will always need to bring certain people in, and we must do that in line with a proper strategy. Tourism, Ian, we might have served together on the Development Fund or the Tourism Board, I can't remember, but between 2003 and 2005, when we had a strategy, we had a vibrant strategy. We saw growth. I've got the figures here. It says something that we haven't had a change to that strategy in over 10 years. Sport and event-led tourism is very important. We've got the marathon. I know that's bringing hundreds of people over, including the relay race. I'm doing it. I don't know how I got roped into it, but I'm doing it for mine Jersey. If anybody wants to sponsor me, go to my website, please. Thank you very much. But tourism funding, it's been cut. It's half of what it should be. The Development Fund was promised £10 million. We've had half of that, but it's not all about millions. Let's make sure we get behind Visit Jersey and make sure it's properly established and fully resourced. Thank you.
I'm wearing a yes sticker, and I voted for option B in the referendum, and that remains my position. I think it's a bit of an insult to the public to suggest that they could not understand the previous referendum questions, and if any of the candidates have difficulty in that respect, one wonders whether they ought to be here. So far as the parish system is concerned, it's one of the richnesses of our community, and that's why I support the constables in the States. I also support the tourist industry, both because it's an important source of revenue and employment, and because of all the tangential benefits that it brings to the island too. For my part, I would like to see a rather greater focus on France and Germany and other European markets, and as others have said, a reliance on some of the huge cultural and natural assets that we have. Most visitors who come to Jersey say they come here because they love the natural environment, and we must be very careful that we don't ruin any more of it. Is that the end of my... No? Sorry. On immigration, I agree with others that capping it is not a practical proposition, but I do think, as with others, that we ought to invest a lot more in training, and I would like to see many more local people rising to the top of the civil service and rising to the top of the public service too.
Thank you. Unlike the last speaker, I don't have connections in Jersey dating back since a very long time. I am myself an immigrant. Jersey cannot produce experts in everything. That's simply just not possible. I don't think anyone on the island right now can say with a straight face exactly how many people there even are on the island. We have the results from the census, but that was 3.5 years ago, so there's a lot that has changed. When you talk about the cash in hand economy, that can never be policed. That's never going to go away. If someone, there's nothing to stop someone getting on a plane, taking some money, doing a job and going home. There really is nothing that can be done about that. I think that the housing and the work laws they don't really work. They don't really work. And yeah, so immigration is quite a complicated issue. Do I support and value the tourism industry? Yes, I think it's more of a marketing thing. I don't see the point in spending 250 grand on banana birds and what have you, TV ads. I mean, when we watch TV these days, more of us record it, and what do? Fast forward right through the adverts. So it's all about getting online, and it's also about the hotels and the businesses themselves doing their own marketing, because this is the day and age of social networking, and you can do marketing for free, more or less. My time's run out.
Right, well, let's go to the end of that session. We're on 3 more questions to finish the evening. So can I have three more questions from St Mary parishioners, if possible? Yes, sir. Somebody like the microphone's just coming.
Thank you. Is that on? Okay. Could the candidates explain what they think the state should do to retain and develop the financial services industry, given that's the main employer in the island and the main source of tax revenue?
Right. Microphone's just coming.
Mark Evans. How do we get local companies to start employing more of the local people on Social Security instead of taking people straight off the boat?
There's a gentleman right at the back there.
Sorry, I didn't hear that one. Second one.
How do we get local companies to employ locals rather than people off the boat?
Given that 73 students from Jersey had their UK student loans cancelled, do you believe the current way of funding tuition fees is fair for both and their living expenses? And if not, how would you change this?
Okay, thank you very much. Got the 3 questions, and the first to bat is David Richardson.
Yeah. I work in the finance industry and go to the bankers' meeting once a month when I can, and I can see there's a lot of marketing there that we're trying to do. Jersey Finance is coming up with a lot of ideas. We're trying to market the island as a philanthropic centre, so therefore trying to get on board lots of business that way. We've got to raise our level of expertise. It's enormously competitive, as you full well know. Obviously, we can encourage high wealth individuals to come in, and that encourages the business and wealth to go that way. As for people coming off the boat and into and taking our workforce, well, obviously that's a skills thing. Not many locals.
Getting people off Social Security.
Oh, right, the unemployment situation.
Off there, getting employers to take them.
Well, obviously, I think if somebody has been unemployed for many years, if we could do, like many places do, guarantee so many hours of work per week or a job for 6 months or something like that, get them back into work would be the first thing I would do. The last one on, the last question on university, I know that's a great difficulty, having just got my 2 children through, or going through. I think... Sorry. Okay, thank you. Next person.
Okay, in relation to the finance industry, how do we maintain and develop? Obviously, it is one of our strongest industries still, and the way that what we can market is the fact that we're well regulated and we have got that stability. You know, the finance industry can be quite a fickle industry and tend to move wherever there's a low-cost environment. But if it does move out to other markets, the Middle East or whatever, what those countries can't always offer is political stability that we have, and that makes a big difference. In relation to how do we get people to come off Social Security and into local jobs, what we need to do is for the people that are on Social Security at the moment, there are great back-to-work schemes. We need to do more to get that talent and to get people upskilled, to use that word, but to give them the skills that they need to do the local jobs. and also to instill a work ethic in people. When I worked at Social Security, I used to visit people who were signed off, who were on income support, and by and large, those people didn't really want to be there. You know, I think we see a small percentage of people that perhaps we focus on. Most people, once they get into the work ethic and they realise that that gives them a circle of friends, you know, that they feel better and they want to continue. So I don't think we should tar too many people with the same brush, but it is about skills. They need the skills to do those jobs. In relation to student loans, yeah, I mean, the extra... Is that my second? Sorry.
That's your second.
Yeah, first.
We need to provide a good, regulated, open environment for the finance industry. One of the things that is becoming more and more important is Gigabit Jersey and the connectivity that they need as well to be able to operate here. The environment we offer has to be conducive to them actually physically being here. We do not want a situation where a bank effectively becomes a computer server in a room served by two people. That is not actually going to do the local economy any good at all. How do you employ locals over immigrants that are coming from, the locals from Social Security? In small business, you have a problem that you have, in very small business, probably 5 or less, you're employing somebody and you're employing them for technically one job, but you're in fact cross-training them probably over 3 or 4, so they can cover for other people, holiday, sickness, this type of thing. So for one thing, you have the 6-month rule where they get their full rights on an employment law and you're not quite sure you've got the right person. And there is truth that a lot of employers will take an immigrant because they're basically just willing to do it. And they'll get on with it. And it's a fact of life, and I wish it wasn't. I wish people would give far more credence to locals first. It's essential that we do. Student loans, it's becoming a fact of life that whilst we get grants for education, the living cost is putting people off going.
Unemployment and getting people back to work. I think unemployment relates directly to education, and therefore we need to provide more subsidized courses to get people back to work. And I'm convinced that an important factor controlling the problem you have mentioned include introduction of new subjects in the field of education, and it is of strategic importance for development of an improvement of our system. We need to provide, as I said earlier, sustainable level of specialists in sectors, upgrading the skills of employees, as well as imposition of higher standards. Apprenticeships in local businesses, which will in return offer experience, will bring a wide range of new workforce. The perfect solution, as I said earlier as well, is the creation of good conditions to undertake studies on strategic sectors and completing them in our island. And that will eliminate the significant problem of high cost of our students. I also propose to support families with, whose economic situation doesn't allow sending their child to study at university level. Thank you.
Yes, I agree. The finance industry is extremely valuable to the island, and I want to keep it. It's changing structure-wise, but the real problem is we've got to keep the island less expensive for them. You know, our productivity has fallen 23% since 2001. You know, we need to take away some of the regulation and red tape that the industry has been burdened with. Some we can't, but we must manage to lighten it somewhat. We've got to provide local skills to help keep the costs down. But going on to companies employing local people, you know, there is a real covert discrimination against people over 50. You know, they go to the very good work being done by the various schemes, but they can't get a job because people say they're too old. That's what we need to get rid of. Student loans, we need more local opportunities to study, because there is a certain dropout rate for youngsters going away to university, and they might be better studying at home. And I think we need better careers advice for courses to match students and to encourage their chances of employment when they get back or when they finish, either in the UK or here. Very often I think it's better for them to have experience in the UK and then come back with experience.
Let's start with student loans. The problem is that the courses in the UK have got so expensive now for Jersey students, and not all of them are very good value for money. So I think we need to be a lot more careful about looking at what the universities are offering, and making sure that when young people start, that they're going to have a reasonable chance of employment. It's going to be a worthwhile course to do, and then perhaps we could afford to it would be worthwhile funding more. As regards the social security, we used to be a lot better at getting people back to work. There was a lot more posts out there where you could start to in training positions where you get a little bit extra benefit for turning up and at least getting used to the workplace, because I think a lot of the problem is it's whether we've got the right skill, whether young people have got the sort of used to getting used to turning up and so yes. As far as the finance industry goes, I understand that when the regulations come, we have sort of burdened them with an awful lot of red tape, and I wonder whether again we could get advice as to doing that a little bit less. The other problem is to make sure that the separation of powers between the legislature and the enforcement, so that we have a good reputation abroad. Thank you.
Thank you. I too am going to start with tuition fees, although I don't have time to give a very technical answer. But the means-tested grant system we have at present is it needs complete review. The system we've got is inadequate. It's clearly not working, and we need to make sure the new education minister puts this at the top of his agenda to deal with. I know I've had 2 children, just finished 9 years between them at uni. I know how hard emotionally and financially it is. Financial services industry. I'm a big supporter of the work Jersey Finance do. We want to make sure we keep supporting them. Your industry, the finance service industry, is dynamic, it's changing, it reinvents itself. That's why it's successful. We need to make sure the States Assembly can be nimble and proactive when we produce the legislation. We need to support you. The back-to-work schemes, I think, are working. I know the Chief Minister, Senator Routier, and people down that end will answer this more clearly, but I think we've helped put over 4,000 people back to work. It is harder now to employ people coming in off the boat. You need licences, which are not being given out so easily. And also, I think we need to change the culture. For many years, our young people were going straight into finance. That's not happening now, but people are beginning to change, and that's why we need economic diversification, so we have more career opportunities for our young people. Thank you.
Part of my job for the last 3 years has been to support our industries, and in particular perhaps the financial services industry. We established a London office which has a small number of officials, 3 officials and 1 representative of Jersey Finance Limited, and they go constantly into the embassies and into Whitehall to explain what Jersey is doing and what it is not doing. I and other ministers have a whole series of meetings with members of Parliament and ambassadors to explain that Jersey is not a tax haven, and that what Jersey is doing in the financial services industry is of benefit not just to the United Kingdom but also to Europe. The trips that we occasionally make with business people to the Gulf and to China are designed with the same aim, to create new markets for the financial services industry. I think that there is huge pressure on local businesses to employ local people. And part of the difficulty is that many local people don't always want to do the jobs that are on offer. I think that the questioner is right if he was hinting that the Social Security Department could be a bit tougher on those who seem not to want to work by making income support a little bit more difficult to get.
I'm going to answer the questions in reverse order. Do I think that the current student loan system is fair? No, as you've heard before, it does need review. The amount of people getting grants cancelled, I think, is quite shameful. The costs associated with going to university have skyrocketed recently. It's around £10,000 a year for tuition alone, and it, as Dr. Zoe Cameron mentioned before, it is about getting a value for money. Gone are the days where that sheet of A4 will open all sorts of doors for you. More and more people are getting degrees, so I think it's not always the be-all and end-all in terms of education. And I don't think that the forefront of academia will necessarily be the UK. I mean, I mentioned before that I went to the University of Oslo. At the time, it was the most expensive place to live on the planet, yet it worked out cheaper for me to study and live there because there were no international fees. On the topic of local businesses, I want to reduce the costs associated with running a business. I think that the small businesses and local businesses are being pushed out of the marketplace. I think that it is a sort of case-by-case basis, because if I can employ someone with more skills for the same money, I'll do so. But equally, some people will employ people with the same skills for less money that are just fresh off the boat. So it's difficult to give a cover-all answer for that. On the topic of finance, the banks are here because of the favourable tax rate. I don't think that the finance industry is a panacea. We do need more diversification in the marketplace, in the economy, and I don't think we should continue to lump all our eggs in the same basket. Thank you.
Thank you. Today in my mail I received lots of leaflets from the Jersey Finance, and they were very, very informative about the benefits that the finance industry is to Jersey. The one thing that I would do is to ensure that, I'm pleased to have received this, that all states and members understand that what the finance industry does for Jersey. And perhaps I would particularly like to suggest that the Reform Party should actually represent what the finance industry does for Jersey in an appropriate manner when they're talking to the French media. Secondly, with regard to the employment of local people, there are some very good local employers. The Jersey Potteries, Camerons and TGI Fridays have really been working very hard to employ local people, and we should be really thankful that they are sort of recognising that there are people who are prepared to work in their industries. It has been a culture change for them. They certainly need to have, every employer needs to have employees who are, prepared to work. Highlands and Trackers and Social Security are sort of working a lot better now than there has in the past. I serve on the Housing Advisory Work Group and discuss with employers on a regular basis their requirements for the number of people they have in their business. And the message is getting through that they need to employ local people. And the point you made about Social Security not being it needs to be tightened up, I agree that does need to happen as well. I'm sorry I didn't get the tuition fee.
Three great questions which I can't do justice for. Read my manifesto. There's most of the answers in there, I hope, in more detail. Look, 3 years ago, I think that we thought that finance was actually in decline. There were issues where regulator, government and industry wasn't joined up. Ian, Alan and I, in conversation, actually centralised financial services within the Chief Minister's Department, and I was given responsibility to effectively lead on it. In discussion with a minister in the UK, we discovered that actually the UK didn't understand what Jersey was of benefit to the UK. We actually commissioned Capital Economics, and we put almost overnight changed the issue that actually Jersey was of huge benefit to the UK. What do we need to do? new banking licences and new fund regimes for you, promote the trust industry for philanthropic matters and do fintech. Read the finance framework, it's out there and finance is growing, and ladies and gentlemen, I believe it's got a great future. In terms of graduates, there's a real issue. We need to deal with the issue of student finance. I think we need to align students' expectations with their courses. Companies like Deloitte's pay for university classes, and actually we need to provide some student finance and I think student loans on a fair basis for students. The whole issue of student finance, it's in my manifesto, is not working correctly. As regards local people, we're doing a lot to get local people back into work, and the long-term unemployed have got back into work in huge numbers, but we've got to do more. Chief Minister celebrated it, he's pushed it, and I agree absolutely.
Students first. I've got two sisters and a brother in America, and there is an endowment insurance scheme which is taken out when a child is born. It runs until the child is 17 or 18. It matures and then pays out for the next 5 years. If that was matched to a states-backed scheme, that would take a lot of the pain out of people trying to finance third-level education, and I believe it's something we should look at. I've said it already in the States. With regard to Mark's question about local companies employing local people, local companies want to employ local people, but local people sometimes don't want to be employed. And therefore, and I mentioned it earlier, you then have this sub-economy going on in Jersey at the moment, where people are getting employed at entry-level stuff, which is a cash in hand and a grey economy. And that's where I think the enforcement should be, and it's not there at the moment. The other problem is, now we're seeing for the first time a sort of lifestyle choice thing, which has never happened in Jersey before. Finally, diversification of the finance industry, highly complex, but I would encourage the finance industry to diversify itself. That's what it needs to do, diversify itself, make it easier with the licensing system, but above all else, we need to put in the line of development should be confined from the Grand to the POM, and big open area office spaces on those sites, which would make it encouraging people to work like on the Microsoft campus I saw, where people work on big open floor spaces, very efficient, all sorts of different things going on. That's all I can say, because I've run out of time.
I'd just like to say that Reform Jersey recognises the importance of the finance industry, and we do everything we can to support it. Unfortunately, the world is knocking at our door. The OECD forced upon us 0-10, which has caused problems transferring taxation to people. The Americans are knocking on our door wanting transparency for their citizens' tax affairs. So we have to become a well-regulated and transparent finance industry, and it would be wonderful if people put their money here to prove that their tax affairs are above board and therefore avoid double taxation. And yes, I think the industry needs to be supported and it needs to diversify. In terms of funding tuition fees, I think we need to negotiate fees for Channel Island citizens with the universities, but also the threshold for parental income hasn't been raised in line with inflation. I think it needs to be adjusted to the level at which parents can afford, and also it should be based on the current income of the parents, not the previous years, because if you have a business and that business starts going downhill, it becomes very difficult for some students to go to university. In terms of employment, that yes, there is the Jobs Fest going on now, which seems to be helping, but I think a lot of our young people have a poor work ethic, and I think they go from being disruptive in school to not being ready for the jobs market, and I think we need specialist units in place in our 11 to 16 schools to try and give those students a better work ethic.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have one of the best regulated and most transparent financial services sectors in the world, and we should all be very proud of that. We've invested heavily in it. It employs about 12,000 people in the island. It's 42% of our economy, and that's why we continue to invest in it, and that's why it's continuing to diversify. It's why we invested in McKinsey to do a full review of it. It's why we put in place a new financial services framework to take on board what McKinsey had said, looking at new markets and new products. and it's absolutely essential we continue to do that. We have to invest in getting the new products to market quicker, so we streamline the legislative programme in order to help with that. And we will continue to do so into the future. We've also put £5 million into Jersey Finance Limited. The industry themselves invest as well, and Locate Jersey goes around the world selling Jersey for inward investment purposes, including financial services. We've just secured recently one of the largest hedge funds businesses in Europe who have chosen Jersey, and actually they've relocated their business from Guernsey in part to Jersey, and I think that's fantastic news. As far as getting people out of social security, we can't make businesses employed, but we can make our local people more employable, and there's a lot of work to do with skills. Social Security Advance to Work programme, Back to Work, Advance Plus, we've put millions of pounds into getting young people from Social Security into work. 2,000 or so in 2013. It's working, but there is a culture issue. We've got a lot more to do, and we've got to really work hard to ensure that the right culture, right attitude is in place.
Well, the answers you want to hear, regrettably, involve spending a lot more money, and we're strapped for cash. I'd be delighted if we get all students in tertiary education on paid-for tuition fees and full maintenance grants and ease off on the means tests, but that's a lot more money. If the budget's tight, I suspect we'll have to say, well, here's the pot, and if you're a AAA star, you're first on the list, and we keep going through. I'm sorry if you're a B and 2 Cs. No money left in the pot, but go on a gap year and we'll give you some extra points, especially if you do charity work. As for getting people off Social Security, well, in the old days, we got the people in the prison to do our cliff paths. I can't believe there aren't any extra jobs to do. I'm not for giving someone a handout and saying, come back next week, we'll give you another one, just sit around on the street, whatever. Let's find things for them to do. Let's be creative. If there's a problem with your education, let's get you back to a class of some sort and upgrade your talents. Now, as regards finances, well, an acquaintance of mine has just left this island with his financial services business to British Virgin Islands, where I understand they do not have any tax information agreements and they've never heard of a compliance officer. Well, that may be how we could help things over here. My worry is what happens when our entire financial services industry goes off to the British Virgin Islands or wherever. What are we going to do when we haven't got a financial services industry island? We've been asking this for decades. Nothing's being done. We need some diversification.
Right, dealing with the finance industry, we need political stability, we need stability in taxation, we need available skills, and we need to stop slagging them off, frankly. I go to meetings with them fairly regularly, and they say to me, why does the state hate us? That's what they actually say. So we need to actually tell them that they're valued. I can't remember what percentage of our income they provide, but I think it's something like 65%. So we need to value them. Skills, it's in my manifesto, so I'm not playing to the audience here. Until we actually produce young people that have got the vocational skills that this island needs, the situation that you've described, with companies taking other people who have the skills, who might have only just arrived in the island, will never, ever solve it. We need at 14 to give young people the chance to follow the vocational route or follow the academic route. That doesn't mean it's set in stone. They can change their minds if they want to. But tell me why a disaffected young person at 14 suddenly understands and becomes more passionate about work at 16 when they get to Highlands. We could have spent 2 years giving them the skills we want, and then we could get them out into the local companies to improve. They'll have their qualifications and they become improvers. That's what we need to do. If we carry on doing the same thing, we'll always have the same problem. The education system needs to be looked at. Sorry, I've run out of time.
Our finance industry generates £1.5 billion. All those people that knock it should think about that. I used to work in the industry, and the industry's had to reinvent itself with the change in international climate, bringing unprecedented new regulation upon it. And our industry is trying to do that. There are parts of the industry that are doing well, trust companies, others banking, when we've got 0.5% interest rates, obviously less so. Back office has gone. and the industry is going to have to change. Our job is to work with it and sustain it. We have Jersey Finance. I'm certainly going to be asking some questions. I was very worried about a report published, I think, today or yesterday about the decline of Jersey in the league table of international finance centres. I want to know the reasons why. I think we're now 63rd according to this table. I'm concerned about that. We dropped. We need to know why, and we need to do something about it. In the meantime, we need to make sure the industry gets the skills that it needs from off Ireland, and we need to do training. And so I think that's absolutely desperately important. Tuition fees, well, are they fair? No. Are they sustainable? No. Scotland, you get them free. England, it's student loans, but now we hear they're all written off. In Jersey, we have a means-tested system. The truth is that universities have to become more efficient, and therefore we need to do something about building an alliance with UK universities to try and do more of that work here, because inevitably some local people are going to lose the chance of pursuing their futures if we don't. On the local companies, I agree. Name and shame. I put forward the countryside work scheme and on the coastal paths. So.
Thank you. I thought you might like to go home a minute and a half early, but then I thought better of it. The university question is a very important question, and it's something that we're going to have to grapple with. We're realising that it's becoming more of a problem, particularly with the action that the UK loan scheme has taken, but I haven't got time to go into detail. It's on the radar. It's going to need to change. The financial services sector is well regulated, it is transparent, and it's a leader in the world, and don't you let anybody else tell you anything other than that. And I am proud of it, and I think that Jersey can be proud of the work that goes on here, the capital flows, the investment that goes up into Europe, the creation of jobs in the UK and in Europe. And I'm grateful for the work that the Treasury Minister has done in not taking that industry for granted, not being complacent, getting the McKinsey report in, doing the capital economics work, creating new markets, looking to create new products so that it's got a strong and sustainable future. And I believe that by not taking it for granted, it can have exactly that. We are working with companies. It's about partnership. We're getting people into work. Social Security is taking people's benefits away when they don't go into work. We are stronger and tougher with these people than we've ever been before. But there's lots of other things that we must keep doing to make sure that that number continues to fall. If you hear what I said last night, then I go into far greater detail on that. Thank you.
Well, that comes to the end of the question time. On your behalf, can I just thank all the candidates for coming to St Mary's. At least 17 of them have got sat-navs that work to find the community centre. They've been very well disciplined. They've stuck to their time that they're allowed to speak. And I'd also like to thank Sue at the end there, who's been watching her stopwatch all evening and ringing the bell very efficiently. I've been keeping an eye on this end, and we agree. So thank you very much indeed, and I hope you all have a very safe journey home.
Just before you go, we would like to, on the behalf of all the candidates, I'd like to thank Derek Mortwood for his judicial use of his knocker, Sue for the impeccable timing, and most of all, we would like to thank you all, the parish of St Mary, for this hall, and for you coming out on a Friday evening and listening to us all. Thank you very much, and please go out and encourage people to vote. Thank you very much for coming.